This is Deja Vu all over again. And when T.J. Scott was directing Adventures of the Sin Trade, I'd asked Rob if I could watch him and shadow him and then direct an episode. And this is the one I got. Oh, God. I remember reading it thinking,
now we determine who's the
okay, it's about reincarnation. And I know nothing about that. I know nothing about directing. But I had a hiatus right before this episode, so I luckily had way too much time to sort of analyze these new characters and try to create some conflict and, you know, all that blah blah stuff that I tend to do because I have way too much time.
Anytime you're ready, Xena.
So this one was about reincarnation. What we wanted to do is, first of all, we had this first modern day episode, so we wanted to try to have a different look of the show, knowing it was a comedy. But I particularly wanted to try to create a comedy that wasn't like In Sickness and in Hell and wasn't as farcical. So we wanted to get something that's very claustrophobic looking, which is what you have here. You've got sort of the darker tones, very blue, which we had never done before. And we were so excited about using practical lighting. There's a lamp. We meaning John Cavill and I, who was the DOP on this one. So this is my first day.
I had a past life experience.
And I had the idea of actually letting the actors rehearse and see what they did. And then I put the camera around them. I never did that again. It took way too much time. And the funny, on our TV show, I learned then you've got to choreograph before, set the cameras up, and then let the acting be more organic, but the choreography had to be there. At least on Xena, that was the case. And seeing as this was hilarious. We had this cut out of Xena in our meeting room where we did the read-throughs. I really wanted to incorporate it in the show. I thought that was so funny. And here again, this is the first time that we broke the fourth wall of the show and sort of acknowledged the fact that we do read everything on the internet. We hear all the comments.
Read it. It came from yesterday's paper.
So these are some of the comments that are sort of winks to everybody who's been watching the show to let them know that we hear you, you know? Just see. Because I had shadowed T.J. Scott, I learned from him that, you know, he always loves to keep the camera moving or his actors moving. And I tried to incorporate that as much as possible in this episode. That was sort of what I was experimenting with. And it was different for a comedy because typically you have sort of your standard wide shot, close-ups, two shots, and there's not a whole lot of movement in the camera. And I wanted to combine the two of those, a comedy, but yet something that we typically do style-wise for our epic shows. That was what I was trying to do. Ted and Lucy were so accommodating. They had way too much fun, actually. They were laughing the whole time on the set to each other. I'm like, wait a minute, I should be sitting with you guys hearing the jokes. I think Lucy did enjoy playing this because she had a chance finally to sort of lighten up on the show, you know, not play the brooding Xena. And this gave her an opportunity to play a new character, but yet with similarities to the Joxer character. And Lucy's a goof, you know. It was nice just to see some levity around her on the show. Here again, we tried to create like a claustrophobic quality, and there was a concern about that, thinking that this isn't a typical Xena episode. There's not much smog. I live in LA now. There's not much fog, so there's no atmosphere, which definitely made it a different look of the show. And so we tried to balance it by having all the clips being outside. So you started to not feel too different. This is Edith playing Joan of Arc, one of my friends who was our PA for a long time and then was the casting coordinator. It was fun for us doing this because everything was modern day for the first time. So, you know, we could use the lava lamps and we could use the lamps, the lighting lamps. Everything was about... John Cavill specifically wanted practical lighting for this. Meaning the sunlight coming through the windows or the lamps, just to give it a different feel. I didn't have anything to do with the set design at all. It was all Rob Gillies. I love the colors, though. I mean, I did see a sketch of what he had intended. It was just perfect. So we had a meeting, and that was pretty much it. He was going for it, and it was colorful, which I wanted. This was supposed to be sort of my waiting room of Beetlejuice, you know. If I could have my way, I would have gone a little more twisted and dark, because I love Tim Burton. But since this is a Xena episode, this was what I tried to do. And so I wanted to have this effect of everybody on the couch here in this awkward situation. And I get it later with Ted's character. But I would have, if I had more time, I would have done more things with the characters in the room. But that's not the case all the time. What I liked about this is that Ted's character is so cynical of the whole atmosphere of the reincarnation. You know, so it's good that we establish who he is, what he believes in already. And that will change.
Sorry I kept you waiting.
So I had to act as well, which was going into it. I was naive, not knowing what to expect, and then I also thought, well, you know, how hard can it be, really? And it was incredibly challenging for me. I know Bruce Campbell and Michael Hurst had done it before, so I thought I could pull it off. But
Excuse me.
I
Mind if I come in with you?
I found that in the priorities of getting the episode completed, my acting performances are the last thing on the list. So I maybe gave myself one take and then moved on. And I found later I had to change some things in the replacing some sound work later. This was my favorite room. Again, this is definitely Rob's influence, Rob Gillies. He wanted to have it like a lounge suite, and I tried to go more towards modern day. I think he wanted to combine the Xena feel, but yet I wanted to make it even more realistic in the modern day. So that's when he started adding the lava lamps, and they created those little lamps there with the shapes. It's like, I could use that in my apartment, you know? It's great. What I liked about working in this room is that I had the ability to use the whole space of the room, and I could use the dolly here and go across the room and get my wide shots and also use it for the close-ups. And that's what I definitely got from TJ. This is the look of a lot of shows, if you notice that the camera's far away from the actors and you sort of feel like you're out of the circle of what's happening, the circle of activity of the guys. But so I wanted to use that in our comedies, which we don't normally do. Anyways, playing. This was my other little thing to TJ. TJ loves to Dutch the camera and everything he does, which you'll see in Syntrade a lot. And we had like a rule typically when on a clip show, we would just come in slowly to the actor, and that was what we did. So I wanted to kind of twist it a little bit, and that's why I decided to Dutch it. Makes really no sense, and I didn't do it anywhere else in the episode, but I was sort of experimenting with what I liked and kind of playing with what the camera could do. I believe the clips were already written. Some of them were written when I received the script, and I did watch them before. I think there was only one that I didn't think was working. It was a Prometheus one that came that they had chosen to come at the end of the episode, and I thought it was just too slow and a bit of a downer, too sentimental. So we swapped it for something else. Can't remember. But that was definitely mostly RG, I suppose. I don't really know. This, again, was just trying to set up the fact that Marco is not who he seems to be. And to me, that's, again, what was fascinating about this episode, is that everybody has this sort of pretense of a certain way of life. You know, like Ted's character is the doctor, he's very straight, so we think. And then later, we find out who he really is. I ran out of time. I think I had 4 days or something. I had 4 days to do this episode. And I was so over it that I went into my 5th day, and I got an extra half a day, unfortunately. Fortunate for me, and fortunate for the director that came after me. And the reason being is that we typically would shoot 6 pages, 6, 7, maybe 8 a day, which is a lot. And then as directors became faster and sort of got the show, then they would give them more, like, 8 or 9 pages. But this was my first time, and I had easily 8 pages a day, and then my shortest was about 7. And then because I was behind, it kept getting pushed to the next day. So I remember one day we did the most setups we'd ever done on a Xena episode. And I had just given the crew a speech as my last day, going, you guys, I'm just really behind here, so we're gonna have to move really fast. And that's when I stopped stopped watching myself on the monitor as an actor. When I tried to direct myself, I would typically go back and rewind it and look to make sure it's what I wanted, and then go back on set. And it just started to, by the end, it was too time consuming. And I really had to trust my director of photography and my cameraman, Cameron, to know that I got the picture when I was on camera. And then I could sort of tell if it was working enough. I had a lot going on during this, you know, the directing, being new as a director, and then trying to act. And there was a lot of calmness in the crew, which was great, because I was trying to go back and forth. Robert was probably the most sacrificial person on the set, because he was called every day and had to wait all day, and then all of his material was completely rushed. And that can be really difficult for actors sometimes, you know, if they are expecting something else. He was patient, but, you know, it definitely started to wear on him. That's the Joxer sweater I was talking about. It's just nihilist, sort of. If you look, it's very similar to the texture that Joxer wears in his costume for the rest of the episodes on the show. So she started to kind of subtly go from Xena, who, to the Joxer character. This was outside of a winery in New Zealand. The only outside establishing shot I had to get for the whole episode. I think we did it on a Saturday. This was kind of funny. Robert was not very happy there. We were Lucy going, that hurt. And then it was funny for me running back and forth, being tied up to the chair. I basically, you know, I did though. I ran back and forth. This was a great gadget from our prop department. Again, they were so excited because they got to do something different. It wasn't a treasure chest or, you know, a scabbard. They got to do something that was modern day. That's what I loved about directing, just being able to go to the different departments and see all these creative people, so joyful and happy in the work environment, and having the ability to do something they love and get paid for it, you know? Just a great, great place. It's funny seeing Ted play something completely different from the Joxer character. You know, he's starting to let the Xena come out in him by being in charge of the threesome here. But again, I didn't want to, I mean, it's pretty obvious that Ted's Xena, but I was still trying to keep it a little ambiguous so that you weren't really sure if Lucy, who we all know is Xena, playing the Maddie character. Not Maddie. But, you know, I wanted to keep it ambiguous, basically. But I got to play with ideas that I had. Like, I like raking two shots from the side, and it's, you know, certain things that I just love the look of, and you know, kept those, and it's pretty good. Yes. You know, it's just a slow-paced episode because you don't have the fight scenes. We're not outside. You don't have the horses. So a lot of the elements of Xena that people loved were not in this episode. And that was definitely a concern, but then it is what it is. So I just think that typically the cuts are faster on a normal episode. Like every 3 or 4 seconds, they're going to cut away, cut to something else. And this sort of took on a life of its own. It had a different feel. I had so much fun, though. Oh my God. I got a lot of grief over the fact that Ted's character punched Lucy in the face. Like the whole idea of, you know, women in violent situations, and there's all this debate over it. But really, there were 2 things about it. One is that he's Lucy. I mean, Ted is playing Xena, and Xena punches and tortures Joxer all the time. So I didn't have a problem with it. And Gabrielle does as well, you know, in a sense of that it's humorous. So I didn't have a problem with that. Didn't even think that it was going to be a problem with the our fans. And the other thing about, you know, like violence in this situation is that you know, you try to keep it humorous. You try to have the sense that you know that the character's okay, and if the character's okay, or even makes like a kind of comment at the end that, you know, like, oh, ouch, or something, then it doesn't seem as bad, you know. It's that whole Looney Tunes thing with the Roadrunner, you know. Like you torture them, but you love it because they're always okay. I was happy with the episode. I mean, it's definitely a sense of accomplishment of trying something that scared me, and having a really nurturing group of people around me to support me. They were amazing, actually, just incredible. The last day, they gave me flowers, and I was very moved. It was so nice. It's like their little sister, you know. It was fun here, trying to figure out a way for Harry to have his Xena quality about him and find an instrument, but yet use modern-day appliances, you know? Like, just trying to find anything we could that throw into the mix to make it witty. He's really agile, you know? He's an incredible dancer. And so the fight scenes, if you have some sort of sense of movement, are pretty easy. And this was the first time that he could just go with it, and he did such a good job. It's too bad he didn't have more opportunities to do it. You could tell, look how sexy he looks doing that, too. Or is it just me? I had to start showing the relationship between Maddie and Harry. All right. This was important for me. I had to make sure I added this because I wanted Annie to have a, like a complete circle and becoming the real hero. You know, she thought she was Xena, but she didn't really know who she was, and she actually finds it out that she's Joxer and becomes a hero on her own and finds her true self. So it was important for me that she get involved in the fight somehow, even if it were just a knock.
You know, I think I knew it was going to work out this way.
But all along I've been trying to have Matty, basically my character and Ted's character, show some connection here and there. So anytime I could, I tried to show that they were starting to get fond of each other, to make it like Xena and Gabrielle. And I really, at the beginning of the whole episode, I wanted to show that, you know, that Lucy's character and Ted's characters weren't meant to be together, that there was something brotherly, sisterly about them, but there was no real connection. So I wanted to sort of transform that and show that, you know, they found each other and Annie found herself. This is so Ted. This is just Ted being the charming, apologizing. This started to sort of change the pacing. Again, you know, it just wasn't your typical comedy. It was unique, I guess, in that it wasn't a comedy, but it wasn't a drama. It was just different. Maybe that's why I would say it's not my favorite. But I definitely enjoyed the experience of working on it, you know, because it's a challenge. With the editing, I would tend to stay into the mediums and the close-ups. Again, this was not what you would normally do in our comedies, because typically it'd be like a wide 3-shot or something, but and more physical humor. But I just didn't think it was working wide, you know, because it was more about the character development and how they changed.
I've been aware for some time that you've been going into my underwear drawer.
So that's why.
It's nice to know it was in a good cause.
Again, that was another little leap of faith that I was kind of worried about. You know, the fact that he always went out as a Xena vigilante and dressed up and never remembered it. You know, all these little quirky things that I was hoping people would ask about. I always just feel so comfortable around Ted and Lucy, but you know, so nice working with Ted. You don't have to do anything, manufacture anything, you know, so nice. Not that you would manufacture as an actor, but sometimes, you know, you just have chemistry with people.
It has no beginning.
And I have chemistry with Ted, and I have chemistry with Lucy, for sure.
The loving friend.
Decided to have us kiss. Woohoo! And I think a lot of people were angry about that. I mean, how come Xena and Gabrielle on the show can't kiss, but because she's in a man's body, then suddenly it's all right?
I could be Xena in my next life.
Okay, that was good. Thank you. Thanks, Rob.